On today's show, the Phoenix Suns steal a win from the Minnesota Timberwolves? Colin Gillespie looks absolutely amazing in the clutch. And Mark Williams, I think, is the Suns' second best player right now. Let's talk about that and much more of this edition of Locked On Phoenix Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Benjamin Garcia, host of The Ben Garcia Show. Mornings on YouTube at 8 a.m., Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, where we break down all Arizona sports, and a credentialed Phoenix Suns media member covering your Phoenix Suns 365 days out of the calendar year for the number one sports podcast network in the world, the Locked On Podcast Network. However you may be listening, wherever you may be listening, thank you so much for making myself and this show a part of your day on this kind of late Monday night, early Tuesday morning. Don't forget, Locked On Phoenix Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Just click that follow or subscribe button to do what thousands of Suns fans have already done. Become an everyday and get Locked On the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. I want to get into what I said immediately right out of the jump. You guys know I love my narratives. You guys know I love my storylines. You guys know I love my angles. And I intentionally said in the open, the Phoenix Suns steal a win against the Minnesota Timberwolves on the road, ? I don't know. I'll classify it as a stolen win. I'll classify it as that. But reminder, yesterday, again, when I don't know, sometimes there's this narrative just because I'm loud that I don't watch the games, that I don't know what I'm watching. I picked the Suns to win this game on Friday night, I believe it was. I don't think it was yesterday. Maybe it was. Whatever. I picked this team to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves. And that was before I knew about the Dillon Brooks injury. So I knew what team was going into it. And I labeled it as a Suns team against the Houston Rockets, who have been on the shelf for a couple of days. They were going on the road. It was their first game without Devin Booker for, that long period of time. And the Suns lost that game. And I totally got that. It was a very excusable loss. But I thought they'd beat the Timberwolves for a couple of reasons. One, if you've been paying attention to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and it's okay if you haven't been, but they have been on a 5-game win streak. And since the Suns beat the Minnesota Timberwolves last, Anthony Edwards has been on an absolute tear. The last 2 games, not so much. But before that, and then tonight, he's been on an absolute tear. That team is not as good as the national media might prop them up to be. They are really genuinely just a team that has played together for a really long time and is stifling defensively and does have a superstar in Anthony Edwards, despite me pretty much hating everything to do with Anthony Edwards. This team, I thought, could survive an Anthony Edwards output as long as the role players around them didn't play like they did in the first matchup against the Phoenix Suns. And tonight, Julius Randle had 21 points. Felt like a lot of those it didn't feel like any bucket he had was big. He passed up that last layup for a Naz Reid 3-point jumper that was bricked. Dante DiVincenzo put him on a milk carton. He was missing in action. Rudy Gobert gets tossed out of this game for being a dirty player and one of the softest players in the NBA. And Jaden McDaniels wasn't good. He was not good offensively, even defensively. And again, we'll get to the dissection of this game in just a second, but it is clear you need to understand what this Suns team is. It is one thing to walk the walk, Minnesota Timberwolves. It is one thing to act like a tough guy. But these last 2 games, Suns and Timberwolves, are a clear depiction of what team is actually full of a bunch of tough guys and what team is full of actually a bunch of front-running, fake tough guys in the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't hear anything from that team when the Suns were up double digits on them in the last game. Oh, that game started to get close. That's when Anthony Edwards started to chirp a little bit. That's not being a leader. Being a leader isn't being loud. It's by leading by example. And I saw Anthony Edwards get up for Dillon Brooks. Congratulations on that one. You're better than Dillon Brooks. Again, I can commend that Anthony Edwards is a human highlight reel specimen. I like everyone sports hates someone. I sports hate Anthony Edwards. That's why when people are like, why do you say he's better than Devin Booker? Because I'm just honest. I'm not going to lie to you. I dislike Anthony Edwards, though. Like, it's the actual disdain I have for Anthony Edwards that some people think I have for Jalen Green. But he didn't get much help tonight outside of a little bit of Julius Randle, which no bucket really felt that big. And the Suns played the same style of basketball in a sense that the Minnesota Timberwolves do in terms of an identity. They're hard-nosed, they're physical, they're going to push you around, and they're going to be defensive-driven. And the Suns can hang with that. The Suns right now can't hang with the Houston Rockets or the Denver Nuggets or maybe even the Oklahoma City Thunder because they just don't have the offensive firepower to deal with that. But what they can do right now is what you saw a lot in this game. Hit quick or hit timely buckets and get a big stop. The Timberwolves stole the lead once in this game, and the Suns quickly took it back. And a lot of it had to do with what their identity was defensively. And a lot of it had to be Mark Williams setting a tough screen, knocking Jaden McDaniels on his ass. A lot of it had to be starting that fourth quarter off on a 7-0 run because you're getting out in transition and you're forcing turnovers. I don't know how many turnovers off the top of my head that the Minnesota Timberwolves had. It didn't feel like a lot, but it did feel like they had some timely turnovers late. And as I look at it here, the Minnesota Timberwolves had 13 turnovers in this game. So again, they had 15 turnovers in this game. So that's a fair amount. That's not great. That's not terrible. It's not great though. And the Suns forced 24 points off those turnovers. That right there is the game. Yeah, offensive rebounding early in the game, did it bother you? But the Suns will always bounce back from that and end up winning that battle. Offensively, as a whole, they lost it by 3 rebounds. This Suns team just forget about just saying, well, the Suns team is just so fun to watch. How about we add some clear analysis to it? Let's start with this. This Suns team is just the New York Knicks of the Western Conference. I don't know if what they do is going to lead to multiple playoff series wins, but I know it is sustainable in the playoffs. And what is that? Hard-nosed defense, lengthy players, pushing teams off their spots, and hitting timely buckets offensively with a bunch of shooters. Have lengthy wings, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Dillon Brooks, Ryan Dunn. Have guys that can hit a 3-point bucket. Grayson Allen, Mikal Bridges. Like the Suns have those guys, or the Suns have the same makeup of the Knicks. The Suns are just a try-hard team, which, what the hell is the problem with that? It's not my fault the Timberwolves don't want to get up for this game in early December and have it bite them in the ass in April when they're fighting for and jousting for playoff positioning. That's on them. That's not a Suns thing. The Suns just remind me so much of the New York Knicks. They play a bit of Nova Knicks style basketball. They're going to run up and down the court. They're going to outpace you. They're going to force turnovers and make you lose and make you give up points off those turnovers. They have guys that can shoot the occasional 3-ball, and they're just going to try really, really effing hard. And that's not a Suns issue. Like that is everyone else in the NBA issue. My thought process of this game was, damn, imagine if every team tried this hard like the Suns do. Imagine how much better the NBA would be. But I think my clear takeaway from tonight is I don't think they stole a win. I think that they're just the better team. Right now, the Suns are just the better team than the Minnesota Timberwolves. And the one thing that kept clicking in my head was, what are they going to look like when they're fully healthy? It's easy just to say, well, they're going to be better. Like they should be, but fit matters, scheme matters. We'll see how it looks. But you would think that they should be better. But I got to tell you, through the last 2 matchups with the Minnesota Timberwolves, there is one team faking the playing hard, fake tough guy attitude, push teams off their spots defensively because we have Jaden McDaniels. And there's another team, or I guess I should say, and that team walks the walk but doesn't talk the talk. And it's why they haven't been to an NBA Finals. It's why Luka Doncic ate their lunch in the Western Conference Finals. It's why they can't have sustained playoff success. The Suns, on the contrary to the Minnesota Timberwolves, I wouldn't even I would say that they have some tough guys. They've got some bruisers. But what they really are is just the team that isn't too cool to try really, really hard. That isn't too cool to get out on shooters. That isn't a team that's just trying to show up Anthony Edwards. They're a team full of a bunch of dogs, man. That hell, if they got to get in your face, they'll get in your face. But they're not full of, like, God, dude, Rudy Gobert is such a perfect symbol of what that Timberwolves team is and everything the Phoenix Suns are not. He'll pick on the smallest guy on the floor, Colin Gillespie. Eddie Johnson pointed that out. And then he'll get, it was definitely a flagrant foul on Mark Williams. Was it kind of soft? Yes, but he hit him in the face. Flagrant foul, for sure. I won't fight that. But then immediately thinking that warrants shoving a guy who's been injured before a lot in his past and getting kicked out of the game for it. Because you're soft, no one fears you, and in the playoffs you get ran off the court. I'm not saying that Timberwolves don't have guys. They do. Suns guys are just better as a collective. Like Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards, I think they're great. Great players. I'll take the collection of the Suns and what they're building. I need to get to Mark Williams in this show because he's been so good. But Colin Gillespie saved this Suns team late. And I want to talk about some of that Dillon Brooks stuff late in that game that wasn't super great. So let's talk about that next. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. So first, Colin Gillespie, who, like, first the good stuff. People were adding me on social media because Colin Gillespie didn't have a great performance. No one did against the Houston Rockets. And it was like this rallying cry of like, you were so wrong about your Colin Gillespie take. He's a sixth man. And it just was like, okay, yeah, the guy doesn't get one grace period without the leading scorer on the team and getting 4 quarters to adjust to being a primary ball scorer. My bad. I thought we had a little grace towards the guy for one game of playing without Devin Booker. Now, Gillespie, like, it's so clear. Like, if someone tells you Gillespie didn't play well tonight, you know they didn't watch the game. They just watched the box score. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I was so thoroughly impressed with what I saw from Colin Gillespie today. What perfectly if Rudy Gobert perfectly encapsulates the Minnesota Timberwolves, Colin Gillespie perfectly encapsulates the Phoenix Suns. Dillon Brooks in that third quarter, late, and we'll talk about Dillon Brooks and some of the judgment thing I wish could get coached out of him, but it just might be a part of him. He heaved up that little turnaround, elbow, fadeaway jumper that he's been hitting at a high enough clip, but he airballed it. And there was 2 seconds left on the shot clock. Naz Reid is standing in the middle, and Colin Gillespie comes out of nowhere, grabs it, puts it in the basket. He did not shoot exceptionally well tonight. But I can guarantee you, Without seeing all of Colin Gillespie's statistics tonight, he was all over the floor and fairly efficient in terms of not turning the ball over. Let's take a look. He was a team best +9. Jamari Bouye was technically a team best at +11, but Colin Gillespie played 33 minutes. Jamari Bouye played 12 minutes, but whatever. He was second best in +-. He was 100% for free throws late in that game when it really mattered, when he could have taken that layup. He could have taken that layup late in that game. Instead of taking the layup, he allowed himself to get fouled, took off a couple of seconds off the clock. He had 6 rebounds for a 6'2" player, but I might add. 1 turnover, took care of the basketball, and had a block. 1 foul, by the way. So he played really well defensively, and he stuffed the stat sheet everywhere except for offensively. And that would come later. It is so funny how I think sensitive fans can be towards what they perceived are stars. And people took it as you hate Jalen Green, or you're diminishing Jalen Green. I just find it so funny how when you say Jalen Green might be better suited off the bench, that's a slight towards Jalen Green. But if you say Colin Gillespie goes to the bench, that's not a slight. That's actually a positive because he can be a really good 6-man. And I'm like, well, what if he's a really good starter? Maybe we're just talking basketball. Maybe no one's trying to slight anyone. And Gillespie in that fourth quarter, while Dillon Brooks was doing some, let's just call it what it is, some kind of bad activity offensively, I'll call it, because I love Dillon Brooks and he's changed the attitude of this Suns team, and he's been mostly amazing. But as Dillon Brooks is rushing the offense, forcing up shots, Colin Gillespie was the adult in the room and had 11 points leading that fourth quarter charge. He was the one that got the Suns the lead. He snatched, how many times do I say, woof, Jaden McDaniels is playing? He kind of eats Devin Booker's lunch a little bit. He snatched Jaden McDaniels' ankles in the fourth quarter and then drilled a 3 in his eye. I rest my case. If you want to, if you want to push him to the bench role, because by golly, that's just very good for him in 6-man, you do it. But I know an efficient, good ball player when I see one, and that dude is a starter in the NBA. Forget if it's Green or if it's not for Green, whatever. I don't care about that. That's not the point. But don't diminish him into a 6-man role, because by golly, he kind of looks like TJ McConnell. He's, only 2 numbers away from the number TJ McConnell wears. And he's kind of got the same hairdo and he's white. So he's TJ McConnell. He does the little things. Don't diminish him to that role. He continuously proves your expectations and my expectations wrong. And those need to be listened to. And tonight, the 3-point jumpers, the snatching Jaden McDaniels' ankles, the grabbing of the loose balls, the super smart heads-up play of getting past Dante DiVincenzo on the inbound with 10 seconds left or 8 seconds left, sprinting to the other side of the court. When he had a layup, Dwayne Wade was saying, thank God he didn't challenge Jaden McDaniels there. I was like, Colin Gillespie would have been fine. He would have made it. But he knew, he had the confidence that I'm going to take off a couple of seconds, hit a couple of free throws, curtains. That guy deserves more respect. And I know Suns fans love him, but he deserves more respect. On the flip side, Dillon Brooks, you are seeing in real time. He is 85% awesome. I've used this ratio all year long. He is awesome. He changes the culture. He is hard-nosed. He is scrappy. He is defensive-driven. And it is all the things you're like, that's the guy that you hate to go against, but you love on your team. But there's that 15% that he goes kind of similar into this tunnel vision Russell Westbrook mode where he thinks he has to win the game. He was really bad late in this game. Now, that's the 85-15% ratio. There was some good. There was some not so good. Let's talk about Dillon Brooks and also Mark Williams, who continues to be awesome. Next. First, today's show is brought to you by the lovely folks over at Mint Mobile. You know there's no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. Right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All of their unlimited plans are 50% off. That means you can lock in 3, 6, or even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take your overpriced phone bill and give it the full Scrooge moment. And what makes this even better is how simple Mint makes the switch. No contracts, no nonsense, just real savings and real quality service. Switching to Mint lets you keep your same coverage for a lower price. Setup takes only a few minutes. You can bring your own phone and phone number without any issues. Turn your expensive wireless present to a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. Limited time offer, upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, and $180 for 12 months. Plan required $15 a month equivalent taxes and fees. Initial plan term only. Less than or greater than 35 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com for details. So, Dillon Brooks has been largely awesome for this team. But there are just some things with Dillon Brooks that drive you insane. And if I'm going to go after Devin Booker sometimes, Dillon Brooks can get it as well. And thankfully, the Minnesota Timberwolves, all 12 of whatever guys that they have on that roster, or the 8 of them that actually played, they were all trying to outdo Dillon Brooks, which like in its own is actually a really good thing. If you got the whole Minnesota Timberwolves team just trying to get an and one mixtape clip against Dillon Brooks instead of trying to win the game, that's a good thing. That means he's distracted them. That's the good part of Dillon Brooks. But he kind of got sucked into his own game by Anthony Edwards, by the Minnesota Timberwolves. And late in this game, he so desperately wanted to be the hero. He so desperately wanted to put it up these shots that you're like, it's kind of similar to the Jalen Green thing that Jason Timpf of Hoops Night Podcast came on here and talked with me about. Jalen Green will sometimes like get to the rim and do some wacky, insane stuff, miss it, and players will say, like, hey, man, like, get us the ball. Like, Dillon Brooks has to understand that just because he has the ball in late situations, he doesn't have to shoot it. And what I mean by that is, immediately after a timeout in the fourth quarter, Suns had a whole play set up. As soon as Dillon Brooks gets the ball, he's shooting a covered three-point shot from the corner. That can't happen. And had the Suns lost this game, I would have blamed Dillon Brooks. But thankfully, the ball got into Colin Gillespie's hand a little bit, and they kind of figured it out. But Brooks, in these late moments, gets a little tunnel visioned. I reference Russell Westbrook. I think that's very fair comp to what happens, and they kind of get in their own way. And Brooks kind of got in his own way today. And late in this game, again, 85% of it is awesome. It's this 15% that he's got to know in late moments, hey, man, there's 20 seconds left on the shot clock. We don't have to heave up a turnaround, elbow, fadeaway jumper with Anthony Edwards draped all over us just because we want to hit a clip on Anthony Edwards. Swing the ball around. Let's run a screen for you. We'll get you the ball. This isn't me saying Dillon Brooks shouldn't shoot. This is me saying he could be smart. And 85% of this game, he was great. And then that 15% hit where he's just got to learn to get out of his own way there. And it's not a bad thing. Like I think it's what you've got to live with Dillon Brooks. Sometimes he's going to get in his own way. And that's okay because you'll live with it because the good is so good. But in late game situations, that part has got to be coached out of him. Especially when Colin Gillespie, has 11 points in the fourth quarter and is cooking. Get the ball in the hands of the player that's cooking. Let's talk about Mark Williams really quickly. his parents, avid listeners of Locked On Phoenix Suns, they came to me, they mentioned me. I forgot their names, but incredibly sweet people. And it's always nice to talk well about Mark Williams because his wife told me straight up, you better only be saying nice things to him. And I was like, hey, listen, his play has made that very easy. And I haven't talked a lot about Mark Williams. I actually haven't talked a lot about Mark Williams at all. He feels like the Suns' second best player. And if second best player is too much of a harsh or blunt thing to say, I don't think it's without question that he's the Suns' second most important player. When he plays, the disparity between him and the other bigs on this roster is two Grand Canyons. He adds an element around the rim where you throw a lob up, he's coming down with it. I have been very surprised with Mark Williams' athleticism. Guys, 7-footers just don't usually move like that. And he had a couple of plays in this game where he's kind of up and reversing with his left hand with someone draped on his right side. Those are tough shots to make. And it's not just the fact that he's finally staying healthy. It's the fact that, remember, we like to talk about when I was wrong too. I said, don't expect Mark Williams to be a very good defensive player. He was terrible in Charlotte. He is like the defensive anchor for this team. Early in this game, swatting away lobs or making life difficult on players. Mark Williams, Rudy Gobert, who was the better player today until Rudy Gobert got kicked out for being a soft, no one's afraid of you big. Mark Williams was better. He was way better. And if Mark gets that, and Mark is in line for a contract extension, you're giving it to him. You have to. You have to pay this guy. And it's not just paying him. It's for what he does offensively, but defensively it's all different. He is miles better than Oso Ighodaro and Nick Richards, not just in switches, but in down low painted areas. He has a sixth sense to him that when someone lobs up a ball, he's swatting that thing away. It's not even getting to the defenders, or it's not even getting to the opposing opposition. And I just right now, are there 10 bigs better than Mark Williams in the NBA? 10 centers, 10 true centers. I don't think there is. And it goes back to that draft night trade where Stephen A. Smith and Bob Myers were clowning the Suns for that horrific, quote unquote, horrific trade that I was always on board on. Brendan Clean, former Locked On Suns host, was also in on. We love that deal. It's stop acting like you watched Hornets basketball. Stop acting like you think it's too much. Because everyone was telling me when they gave up Dalton Connect and an unprotected first-round pick that they stole Mark Williams. And I'm talking to myself too. Remember when I said bad defensive player? Maybe let's stop acting like I was just grinding the Charlotte Hornets film. I watched him play. I did some research into it. But clearly I didn't know. I didn't know enough. And Mark has been so good for this team. Forget, Mark making plays. Dude's just going to be money Mark soon with how much money he's going to get from the Suns team. And credit to him, man. You want to see a guy stay healthy and be a catalyst for this team, and he has been just that, a freaking catalyst. And right now feels like the second best player on the Phoenix Suns next to Devin Booker. And if that's too much for you, I won't argue with you. He's at minimum the second most important player. And good place to be, man. Good place to be. Oh, by the way, how did I miss this? He had a 3-point jumper, and he was 0 for 5 for those. I'm sorry, he's 0 for 4 of those to start his career. That was his first made 3-point jumper. Jordan Ott, what the hell are you cooking? What the hell are you cooking? Because that jumper was a little too pure. And it looked really good. As soon as he shot it, I was like, oh, that looks good. And then it went in. What the hell are you cooking, Jordan Knott? Smells good. Smells good. But that was, like, what the hell was that? There's no hesitation either. There was time left on the shot clock and it was just wet. The hell are you cooking? I don't know what he's cooking. My tweet was, what the hell? When could Mark Williams shoot threes? So that was cool. Hashtag analysis. That was cool. With that being said, hit that like, share, subscribe button. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. Appreciate you guys being here every day. Locked on Suns has been doing awesome, and it's because of people like you who continuously show out to the show. So thank you so much for making myself and this show a part of your day. I hope I continue to bring you guys the best Suns content that you can. Thank you so much. Talk to you guys tomorrow. It's a John Voida Tuesday, and we'll get to that and much more tomorrow. I'm Benjamin Garcia, and it's been Locked On Phoenix Suns. Talk to you guys then.